Hello and welcome to this IFAF flag football officiating training tape. I'm Jed Brooks-Lewis and today we're going to be talking about the mechanics of working the side judge position. There are three main aspects of the mechanics that we're going to be talking about today. Those are communication, post-snap movement and also pre-snap positioning. Within this tape we're going to see examples of really good mechanics and some examples of where the mechanics could be improved. The object of this is not just to highlight mistakes made by officials, but to use them as a learning opportunity so that we can take something into the next games that we work. So without further ado, let's review the plays. This first play shows a good example of communication between the side judge and down judge. The luxury of working side judge is that you have another official on the sideline, so on any close plays you should look to communicate with them and check that you both have the same call on the field. In this play the side judge is off screen on the right hand side, approximately where this arrow is pointing. If we then roll the tape onwards, we see that the ball is snapped and we see a deep pass downfield to a receiver close to the sideline that's then intercepted. We then see a really good example of communication between the side judge and the down judge, that no one gives a signal too quickly. The officials instead look at each other and then give the signal that it was a completed interception. If there's maybe one thing we could improve on this play, it's that the side judge should continue to watch the receiver, or in this case defender, who's caught the ball after they've made the catch and gone out of bounds, in order to ensure that we don't see any unsportsmanlike acts after the play. It's less of an issue in this case as the player has gone into their own sideline, but if it was a situation where they had caught the ball and gone into the opposition sideline area, then we would want to have eyes on this situation. This next play is another good example of side judge and down judge communication. The side judge is located off screen to the right here, and we see the ball is snapped and then thrown into the end zone. It's caught, and if we stop it here, we see that the down judge is pointing at the side judge, and although not visible on the screen, the side judge will also be pointing at the down judge. This again is another really good example of how the side judge and down judge can communicate on these close plays and give themselves time to make the correct call on the field. Pointing is an especially good mechanic to get into, as it basically says to the other official, I have a touchdown or I have a completed catch, and allows them to step in if they have contradictory information. This play is another example of really good communication between the shallow and deep wing officials. It's a little more subtle than in the previous two plays, but it still shows that taking your time on a call is the best thing to do. If we roll the tape on, we see the ball snapped, quarterback roll and then throw, and if we stop it here we can see that it is close to the sideline but clearly a completed catch. If we then roll it on again, we see that the side judge waits and does not immediately signal, just in case the down judge has any contradictory information. This is again a really good mechanic to get into. It remains a touchdown whether you signal for it immediately or if you take a second and then signal. These next two plays show examples where we are perhaps a little bit hasty with our signals, whereas in the previous three plays there's been really good communication between the side judge and the down judge and they've taken their time over the calls. On the following plays we see the side judge come up with a signal a little bit quickly, which for the reasons we've previously discussed is something that we want to avoid. If we roll this clip onwards, we see the ball snapped and thrown into the end zone. We see the side judge come up really quickly with a touchdown signal here. Obviously, if you've got it in bounds, it's important, that we get the call right. But at the same time, we also should be taking a little bit more time with this call. This receiver could have lost control of the ball as they were going out of bounds, and then we would have had an incomplete, but the side judge would have already gone up with a touchdown signal, which is kind of one of the big reasons that we should be just a little bit slower with these. We should let the play roll out to its full extent and then make a signal depending on what we have. This play is another example of where our signal is perhaps a little bit too quick. If we roll it on, we see the ball snapped, thrown to the right-hand corner of the end zone. The side judge backs off the line and comes up with the touchdown signal very quickly. We need really to just be a little bit slower in these sorts of situations, as it gives us the time to process what we've seen, especially with a close catch like this, where the feet are, close to the sideline. We want to just take our time on this and make sure that we get it right. We do get it right in this case, but there could be a situation where we go up quickly like this and then the down judge steps in and says, actually, the foot was on the line, we have an incomplete. It's also worth noting on this that the side judge should probably back off towards the back of the end zone instead of coming out laterally. That means there's less chance of the players coming in towards them and potentially putting their safety at risk. That's more something that you can get from reading the play, and if you have those receivers heading straight towards you, then you should know to step off and come off the back of the end zone instead of backing away laterally like this. The next three plays show examples of why we need to be always switched on to what routes receivers are running, and that we adjust our movement during the play accordingly. On this first play, we see the ball snapped and then thrown deep downfield, and if we stop it here, we can see that the side judge is almost in line with the receivers making the catch. This means that they are not in the best position to make any calls on any potential contact, and there is a little bit of contact between the defender and the receiver this play. I don't know whether it's a foul or not, but because the side judge has reacted late and started moving far too late, it means that they are not in a position to make a call on this. What should actually happen is when the ball's snapped, the side judge should immediately start moving deep downfield, meaning that they'll be in a much better position to get a view on any potential fouls that take place, and also cover the goal line if the receiver breaks the tackle. On this play, we have a short completion, and it looks like the side judge gets a little bit sucked into where the ball is, and therefore sort of sacrifices their movements over the rest of the play. You can see that the quarterback has the ball, throws it, and it's completed short. And if we stop it here, we can actually see that the side judge is moving back towards the halfway line. There are pretty much no situations where, as a side judge, you should be moving back towards where the ball was snapped. Your movement should always be downfield and then looking to cover either the end line or the goal line, depending on which one is being threatened. So just important to note that this movement shouldn't happen, and we should not be looking to get beaten deep by receivers. As side judge, you are the deepest official and you have that responsibility to be in position to cover any of the major lines that do get threatened. In this play, we have another example of where I think the side judge gets a little bit sucked into the action around the ball, meaning that they do end up not moving in the way that they should in reaction to the play. The receiver avoids multiple tackles, and that means that once they break loose, the side judge hasn't actually been moving further downfield and gets almost overtaken by them. If we roll it on, we see the ball snapped. And then we see it thrown short to this receiver here, who then dodges a tackle there and then comes up the field. If we stop it here, we can see that it's only at this point that the side judge actually starts reacting and moving away from their initial position on halfway. This reaction needs to come far, far earlier. Otherwise, we are going to be in a position where we get potentially overtaken by the receiver and we don't have coverage on the goal line. While, it's easy to get maybe a little bit sucked in, especially if we preempt there being a flag pull, we need to treat every play like the receiver is going to avoid the tackle and adjust our movements accordingly to that fact. On this next play, I want to look at the original positioning of the side judge at the snap. They're not visible on this clip, but we can sort of surmise where their initial positioning was based on their movement after the play when they come into shot. As you can see, the ball is approximately 7 yards from the halfway line. And in these sort of situations, as side judge, you should start thinking about lining up on the goal line, because if we have a deep pass, we want to be in the best position to rule on any close plays around it. If we roll it on, we see the ball snapped, and then we have a deep pass. If we stop it here, though, we can see that the side judge has lined up approximately 7 or 8 yards from the goal line, meaning that they do actually get beaten deep in this instance as well. It's really important in these situations that we either make sure that we don't get beaten deep, or we completely remove that possibility by starting on the goal line, and therefore meaning we can officiate the entire play from one position with the best view on it. This final play looks at side judge positioning when we know that a deep pass is going to be thrown. In this case, this is the final play of a half, so we can reasonably surmise that the offense will be throwing a deep pass and would be looking to get the ball into the end zone. Normally the side judge would be located here on halfway for their initial positioning, but in these sort of cases it makes sense to start really, really deep, actually on the goal line, as it means that you are in position to make a ruling should it be threatened, with no other parts of the field being as important. As you can see, as we roll it on, the quarterback scrambles around and does actually throw a very, very deep pass around the goal line. Therefore, it was a really good idea for the side judge in this case to start on the goal line, because it means that they don't have to move during the play. They can officiate it all from a stationary position and make sure that they have the best view on what happens during the play. This brings us to the end of the side judge training tape. Hopefully it's provided you with some useful insights and something applicable you can take to the next game you work. Thank you very much for watching.